हुई तो है जो निज़ाम हस्ती चला रहा है वही खुदा है वही खुदा है.
Hello and welcome to the park for this session on human cosmology and society. My name is Ali, and I have been holding these sessions from last couple of years in Mashta with Henrik and with the rest of you people, different people every time. But the subject itself is complex. The human cosmology is complex to a degree that not many of us necessarily understand the level of complexity we're living on. Unless we deep dive for a journey within to explore more and doing a root cause analysis of the fears, desires and vibes we react to. What we react forms a behavior and eventually a society. So the question is, what drives us who drive a society? The human mind itself is given numerous thoughts constantly and consistently, where you have to make a conscious effort to pick from the right ones and build on them and let go the other ones. And that effort, and that human effort, eventually is an effort of a heart, or rather should I say, spiritual heart. Welcome. Yeah, so the key, and to have that heart which will do just decisions, it is quite a journey. It's a journey from instinct to intuition. It's a journey from a lower subconscious to a higher intellect. And that intellect evolves over the time that it can make fearless decisions. And fear is something we all know, which human mind is haunted with the fears at time, and we react to that fear. It may very well be a fear of losing wealth, which is more or less a material god of the day. We tend to take refuge in fear of losing control or power, which simply shows how insecure we are at times. So how to maintain that just balance and to have that heart which eventually leads the mind for making appropriate decisions in life and forming a society. In political domain or in political discourse, typically freedom is seen or defined more of something in combating the external pressures and external elements. But freedom has a lot to do with the inner dimension as well, and has a very strong relation with the fear within we react to. So if that is compromised, then eventually decision making is compromised, which will affect. That's why you need well-trained hearts and well-tamed souls to give that thought leadership to a society for the times to come. The reason why Jesus were able to provide the direction, or Moses was able to provide the direction, or Muhammad, peace be upon all of them, were able to give that very direction in changing the political discourse of his time, of their times and time to come, was due to the fact they were selfless and fearless. Religions were not meant for just living a set of rituals, and but rather higher understanding and transformation of souls. And unless that happens, there is little value we can add in a society. To explore more, I think I have a special guest today for you people. Muhammad Asim Maharvi. He is a chairman of Sufi Study Center. There is an interesting PhD thesis done from across the Øresund Bridge in University of Copenhagen by Ida Sufi Metzin with the name Extremist of Love. When she traveled all the way down to Pakistan for meeting Asim Maharvi in getting to understand this, what are the cosmological activities or activism which is affecting the politics of the time, or the sort of implication it will bring to the society. But before inviting Asim, I would love to introduce one more extremist of love, which has to travel all the way from the US, Patrick Otherly, and to join us in this journey. And thanks, gentlemen. Thanks all of you for coming in. And if you have questions, please feel free. We want this to be an interactive session and dialogue in the end. We'll, after the initial talk, I think we will go through the all the questions you may very well have, and we'll try to address them to the best we can. Thanks for the time and coming over. And over to you, gentlemen.
Hello and good morning. Because I don't know Swedish, so if anybody can help me, what do you say in Swedish? Kumoro. Kumoro, everybody. It's a very strange part. Can I assume that everybody here is from Sweden or Swedish national? Well, okay. So yeah, but I'm talking about the geography, the land here. It's a very special sort of a geographical position where we are, because in the old paganism, there is a concept that there are the energy lines or energy canals which are running through this land, this earth, right? And then they cross, and they are called as ley lines. And in China, if you go in that tradition, they call it yellow lines. So this is a very interesting ley line, probably under the ground where we are standing, which has a special thing to do with the communication. That's why probably this can be called as the birthplace of telecommunication. And I think that this is the best opportunity for a spiritual communication also. So thank you very much for inviting me here. Starting from under the ground, now we talk about something which is on the surface of the ground. And what is on the surface of the ground? What is your name, sir?
Oliver.
Oliver.
Yes.
So what do we find on the surface of the ground?
Trees, dirt, rocks. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for a person like me, this is the enough information I should have. Yes, please. So what do we find on the surface of the earth? Yes, people. And then people of different sorts. Then we find people in Sweden, then we find people, they call them Swedish, then we find the people who are living in the Norway and they call themselves Norwegian, and then separate different identities. This whole educational system, when we talk about the humans, or when they start giving you the introduction to the human identity, somehow in every society we fail to introduce to our youth that there is one aspect of me which is with this universe, which is this with cosmos. It's good that I'm Sweden. I should be taught about my land, right? About its geography, about its culture, about the language and everything. But the primary thing which the human beings are facing today is actually that missing thread which we never introduced to our mind, that we are a living creature who has the connection with all of this universe, and we don't have our universal identity. Why this universal identity if we do not have what it does to us, right? You can say that, okay, this is a very philosophical thing, that I should have a universal identity, but how that universal identity somehow affects my practical life? What if I do not have any, right? Why do we need the identities? Because in today's modern political world, at somehow there is a tug of war between this identity, or the assumption of our any sort of identity, either it be the race or the language, or of anything, right? That's where the human story starts. And the human story is, I don't want you to believe in this, but this is what mostly the religions have told, right? That there is a divine creator who, out of his love, created human beings, and to human beings he elevated, among the creation, he alleviated the station of this particular creation, right? And it gave human being a status where the human being becomes the deputy of the divine creator. So this is the concept, right? So now the creator looks, since he has created and now he wants his deputy, so he looks at the earth and there he sees whatever he has created. So he picked this, that I'm going to tumble with this. Anyways. So where were we, Oliver?
The deputy of the divine creation.
Yes, the deputy. So he looks at all the creations what he has created, and he picked human being with his love, that, oh yes, this is something which can hold my divine knowledge. And what he picks is really a very fragile animal species. We are the weakest of the animals with whom we share this planet Earth. So he picks that up, and there is a dialogue in the angels, right? Angels and the Creator are having a dialogue, and the angels, they refuse to understand the wisdom behind picking up a very weakest of the animal and then giving it the station that, okay, I am, that you have the potential to know me. So there is a dialogue, and in which the angels, they somehow don't agree with this idea, and God says, the Creator says, that you don't know, but I know. And I have given him the complete knowledge of my attributes. And now, on this basis of knowledge, which has been given to the very essence of every human heart, and that very thing which makes you different from the other animal species. The problem with the knowledge is that we often relate knowledge to our intellect or minds, isn't it? Right? We think that this is our brain activity. This is how we think that our minds or our thought process have usually something or everything to be done here. In the Sufi or the spiritual perspective, the story is half truth, but it is not the full truth. Right? And according to them, the full truth is that because that knowledge was completely given at one time to every spirit, right? So that essence is in the spirit, not in the mind or the brain. And those minds or the brains which are aligned to the spirit, they get the maximum of the knowledge. So I would request all of you not to mix knowledge with the information. So knowledge and information are two different things. In modern times, there is another dilemma that human brains have been conditioned that the source of knowledge is books. And if there is something which is beyond books, right, that is never taken as a serious. That source of knowledge is in every heart. And whenever the mystics say that the source of the knowledge is heart, the modern human minds take it as a myth, right? And they do not pay a full attention to what they are saying. And this is another dilemma of the modern understanding of the world, that mythology is myth and logos and logic, right? These two together makes the somehow a clear picture of whatever is happening, right? Mythology, logos and myth. Now logos is mostly about the tangible realities, and myth is mostly about the untangible realities which we cannot see, feel, or you may call it as the unseen world. So, human being at the unseen level, right, is made up of three things, or we may call it combination of three things. First, it is that he is living on a physical realm of reality, my physiological shell, my this level of existence, right? And then this is seen part of me, and then there is a hidden part of me, my essence of life, which is timeless and spaceless, right? It is my essence, and it is the most uncomprehendable thing for me, right? I know that I am a body, right? But I cannot be satisfied with only this concept, right? And in somewhere, there is something which I also think that is my beyond body thing, But what that beyond body thing is, that I don't want to accept that, whatever it is. So, one is your physical shell, which is your form, and then there is your meaning, which is your essence of life, which is your spirit, right? And if you want to take these two examples, these are totally two opposite things, right? One is seen and one is unseen. One is touchable, other is very subtle, you cannot touch it. Nafs. So nafs is that medium which is in between your essence, which is timeless and spaceless, and your body, which is in time and in space. So one of its side touches with the material, with the physical world, right? And the other side of the same medium touches the other extreme. So that's where a human experience of life becomes all full of paradoxes. Because we inwardly are always in a state of a very interesting sort of imbalance. And sometimes we tend to do something totally different, which will not even make any sense to even ourselves. So this is where the human being stands. At best, imbalance. At best, with the friction to the whole of the universe, right? And that's where we feel pain. Pain is not, so what is pain? I mean, any sort of pain, physical pain, but what is pain? Suffering is the result of pain. A feeling, yes. Why not we take it as an inbuilt system which tells us that our body, our physical body has gone in imbalance. There was a complete balance flow of neurons from my brain, or flow of blood cells through my veins, and all of a sudden something hurts me and it creates an imbalance. And that imbalance is told to me, to my whole function, as a pain, right? And my whole body suffers with that pain. This is what pain is, right? And if there is a pain in the form, right, on my physical existence, there is a pain attached to every spirit also. We usually do not recognize that because we go through such paradoxes in our lives, and our minds are not in balance to have a break. There is a continuous flow of thoughts in the mind, which becomes a very hurdle to understand that humans' experience of life is out of time and out of space also. The story does not end where my one level of existence ends, right? If the story is in this format, that Sufis, they think, they believe that a human being is a microcosm, and this universe or the reality which we are experiencing is a macrocosm. So whatever is in universe or in the experience we are having, there is something which is within this microcosm which is also changing, right? So whatever you experience outwardly, somehow it is related to a very inward state of a human being. Society is a very abstract word. I have never met any society. Believe me, in my life, I have been to 86 countries, but I have never met any society. It is a very abstract thing. At the end, it is a human being, a very individual, that is the unit of the society. So the best way, if I want to be in balance, right, can be beneficial in the outer world also. For example, if I am in balance, if I try to put my inner self in balance, that would be reflected in the society also. Right? I have an interconnection with all the universe. My spirit is continuously in a pain of separation, right? From its very beginning. I realize it, I don't realize it, right? I recognize it, I do not recognize it. But humans keep on suffering with that spiritual poverty and that inner discord. And it is affecting our societies. What then society means to a Sufi? To a Sufi, it means to create a peaceful environment, because Sufis, they follow the Islamic tradition, so they go with the name of the religion, Islam, which one meaning is peace, right? And the other meaning is surrender or to submit. So an Islamic society is to create a peaceful environment which facilitates every human being to submit to one divine reality. That's it. And if you have any questions regarding this, I'm here to answer your questions.
वही खुदा है, वही खुदा है, वही खुदा है, वही खुदा.
Yes, please. It's a whirling dervish, and it says, Haq Dost, friend of the truth, and with a prayer that may Allah give me a higher consciousness. Yeah.
It's a roomy thriller.
Yes. So, Jacobi, no questions? No. Great. It means I make things clear to the people.
Does everybody know what a whirling dervish is?
Okay.
Anybody know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, he knows. Yeah. So why it is spirituality necessary, right? I mean, why do I at the end care if I am having a good life or everything? This is a question every human being has been asking himself. But we are always engrossed in material aspects. Our minds have been conditioned in such a way that it becomes really very hard for human being to get out of that consciousness and think of anything. It becomes blank, so to say, because they do not see it, because they do not have knowledge. So they think that they'll be putting their step into an unknown territory which they do not know, and they may fall. Right? Falling itself is not a painful thing. Now, if we talk at that level, then there will be four things. One thing which I missed to say is, or which is translated as, somehow translated in West as soul. That is Jan. So we have a body, this physical body, and this is in a realm of a reality which is called as Alam-e-Shahada. Right? Alam-e-Shahada is the realm of reality which can be witnessed. Right? Shahada means witness. Right? So this is one realm of reality where I exist. And there is another realm of reality where my spirit exists, right? Or my ruh exists, right? Human beings have a very less knowledge about that realm of reality in totality, right? It is said in Quran that tell them that you know but very little about ruh. So that is ruh. Then there is a life matter which we share with other creations, with other animal kingdom, right? And that life matter is where we walk, we talk, we perceive somehow things like the other animals are doing, right? And they are trying their efforts to make their survival better, right? So that is part of soul. And people in East, they sometimes think that West has stopped at that soul level. What they are calling soul is actually something which is that existence which we share with every creation. Right? And then there is nafs. This is a very unique thing, right, which has been given to human beings. The most interesting thing is this self. Now self, or what we call as nafs, English is not that profound language. If somebody knows Arabic, it becomes very easy for him that, okay, it is a very interesting language that somehow it won't address you, but then it is again directly talking to you. So nafs is breathing also, right? The breath you take, that is also nafs. Breathing is called as nafs. And nafs has again then two opposite phenomena. One is inhaling, which is totally opposite to exhaling, right? And this opposite is nafs. So whatever has been created is created in duality. It is balanced by two opposites. Whether it is a human being or either it is anything, right? We are living and experiencing a paradox of opposites. And fortunately or unfortunately, we also are ourselves. So that is nafs. It is, if you want to say, a communication system or a meeting point, or if you may call it as a gray line. If you make white and black together, you don't do anything, but there all of a sudden appears a gray line, which is the closest point they can get. So from the gross level, right, that is where in nafs it is called as nafs-e-ammara. That nafs which is dominant by the materialistic aspects of human existence, whether it be anything, popularity or material or money or wealth or power or anything, right? So all the human activity which comes under this consciousness is the product of nafse ammara. So a Sufi path is actually to go to that balance, right? So it makes it a conscious journey, that from a lower conscious level, from the animalistic point level, you start your journey, right? But you do not stop there. You go to the higher stations, right? And then there is nafse amara. Then beyond this is nafse lawama, right? And beyond that is nafse mutmainna, and beyond that is nafse razia. So with purification of this self, right, from seen to the unseen, from multiplicity to unity, right? We are experiencing multiplicity, right? Our essence has experienced unity, right? So from multiplicity going back to unity, this is what is called as Sufism. So you have to pass through it. Self is not bad, right? It is all about that it has different stations and different phases.
It's been a lot of like intellectual or spiritual. You told us a lot of things, but what can you say about how to put this into practice in your own life? Are there any? Is this just a way to think and view the world, or are there ways to incorporate this thinking into your own life through actions or the like?
Thank you. Frankly, I didn't want to give this thing that, okay, a person in my attire here has come as a missionary and he's trying to sell some of a spiritual product. So that's why I didn't tell it. Product. So that's why I didn't tell it. In Sufi spirituality, there are different techniques. First and the foremost is that if you are taking on a new journey and if you want to take it as a path, there are two types of studies. One is study of Sufism, and it can be as study of anything, right? You can study the history of Sufism, you can study the philosophy of Sufism, and you can study the other works. That is study of Sufism, right? And then there is study in Sufism. Then study in Sufism is totally a different subject, right? And there the institution, right, should be your guru or some spiritual master, right, who can check and prescribe you the real thing which can work for you. It is not a curriculum-based activity as such, because Sufis, they think that our lives are unique, right? They are unique as the fingerprints, right? And same is with our life also. The life experience we have been given is very unique and it is not given to anybody else. So is your spiritual path unique. So the first and the foremost is that you find, but there are different practices where which Sufi does, and you asked about this whirling dervish. So this is the form of zikr, the remembrance, right? And we call it zikr, in which you invoke the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what are the attributes actually? Like these 99 names. First, I'll start with this, what we call as absolute zikr. Absolute zikr means the remembrance, the highest remembrance. and that is La ilaha illallah, that you might have heard. So Allah is Arabic word for God. So, and the Christians and the Jews in Middle East, they also use the word Allah for God, right? So La ilaha illallah, La means nothing, that there is nothing, and then there is illallah, that there is something. So it is in two parts. One is affirmation, that this is, and one is negation, that this isn't, right? So the Sufis look at this, that this is what the world is, like two opposites, be and not to be, right? And same is the composition with the name of Allah also. Allah has 5 words, alif, sounding like a, and then L, and then L-A, La. And at the end there is H, right? So Al is affirming something. There can be Jacobs all around the world, but when I say Al Jacob means this Jacob, right? And La means negation, that there is nothing. So from this world of opposites, from this Al and La, this world of opposites, you go into Ha. That is why you would find on the Sufis' calligraphies or paintings more of the word Ha, or they would say who. So who is actually going out of the multiplicity and entering into the unity. So La ilaha illallah and Allah.